actually approached Shane about doing a testimony because I thought I had something to say after my little episode with my shoulder. You learn things through the strangest ways. God definitely works in strange ways, no doubt about that. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of the stuff Shane talked about, but he covered it. I'm just going to go into my testimony at this point. So to start with the incident itself, I did something stupid and dislocated my shoulder. And it was a pretty bad dislocation. So, but to get to the part that reaches in a lot of people dislocate their shoulders, I guess. But you have to go back about probably 20, 25 years. And Steph's here this morning, so you can ask her if this is true or not. A friend of mine had gone, he had shoulder surgery, had an MRI, and he told me how horrible it was and all this. And I said these words to her. I said, if they ever tell me I need to get an MRI, you're taking me out back and put me out of my misery because I'm never doing it. I actually told her that. It was one thing in life that I said I'm not doing. And God laughed. So you fast forward, I dislocated my shoulder, Steph went with me to the doctor. We can get in there. First thing they do is they make you wait a month to see the doctor, or maybe even more. It was a while. And the first thing he says is, well, the first thing we need before we do anything is an MRI. Immediately I thought, why didn't we get the MRI scheduled while we were waiting? But, that's me. So anyway, but he said those words, and Steph looked at me kind of funny. I was sitting there with my arm still torn and it's not fixed, and I'm in pain, and it's just been a crazy time. And she realized I didn't know what he said. When he said MRI, I was thinking, the thing you women will know, they put the jelly on your belly and smear it around there, that thing. That's what I was thinking. And she said to me, Dad, did you hear what he said? And I'm like, yeah. It's an MRI machine. And I said, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And the doctor said, that's the next step, you have to do it. I guess the good thing about it is that, like everything else, was 6 weeks away. It wasn't going to be the next day or anything. No sense getting it out of the way quickly. So what I had after that was what I would call some anxiety, because I had all this time to think about it. And I mentioned it to Shane. One of the things I forgot to mention when I said about my injury was the very first day, I think, that I was there, Pastor Shane came and visited me, prayed over me, brought me some food. I think it was chili. And, we're blessed to have Pastor Shane here. And anyway, so I didn't want to let that go without mentioning it. But now where was I? So I had the anxiety over the MRI coming up. And I would tell Steph, we talk almost every day. I'd tell her, man, it's really bothering me. She'd say, Dad, quit worrying. And I was like, I can't quit worrying. It's like, if there's any way out of this, I'm not doing it. I'm praying. At that time, I used to walk out through the woods. I got where I would pray a lot while I was walking. And what really happened, one night, I had a dream. I'm in the stupid tube, and it's right here, and I can't breathe. And I woke up, my chest, my heart's pounding. And I'm like, oh, man. And I thought, this is going to kill me. And I started praying, and a thought came to me that I've thought many times in my life since I saw this quote, or whatever you want to call it. Shane uses a lot of literature in his sermons and his talks sometimes. If you've ever read the book To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch is this lawyer, they're in the South. He's going to defend a black man who is he's going to defend him for a charge that he was not guilty, and Atticus knew it, but everybody else wanted the black man hung for it. And so there were threats on his life and all this stuff. And one of his kids, there was 2 kids in the book, one of them says to him, I don't understand, you don't seem afraid. And he said, well, that's because it's not time to worry. And he said, what do you mean? And he said, look around where we're at. Is there anybody here threatening me right now? No, it's not time to worry. He said, when it's time to worry, I'll worry. Or I won't. But I'm not going to worry about it now. And I thought of that, and I thought, I'm laying on my couch, because I was sleeping on the couch at that time, my arm propped up. I thought, I'm in my house, like I can move around, like there's nobody here, they're not putting me in a tube right now, it's not time to worry. So I kind of made, you shouldn't say this, but I kind of made a deal with God. I said, God, if you let me not worry until it's time to worry, then I'll worry then. Well, honestly, I can honestly say from that moment on, I never worried about it again. We went down. I talked to enough people who've been in it. Some were horror stories and some weren't. I was like, you know what? If I go in there and start freaking out, then I'll freak out. But I got there. They gave me an Ativan. I'll admit that. God gives us some of those things to help too. And I took the Ativan and I was fine. I came out. I was in there, Steph? 15 minutes. And just a word of encouragement to any of you. If you ever need an MRI, do not freak out about it. It's not that bad. You can do it. So that was one of the first things. And I really, that was big to me. Like Shane will tell you, the first thing I told him was, I'm worried about the MRI. Like that was a big deal. But there was something that came on later on that was actually bigger. And actually had a little bit bigger, a more spiritual impact on me. And that was after, I don't know, it was maybe 6 weeks in and 8 weeks in, I got a letter. And the letter, without going into detail, pretty much said, this didn't happen at your house, it happened at your daughter's house, and we're going to make her insurance pay for it. And I was like, no, you guys, you can't be serious. And that's what they wanted to do. So I filled out a paper. I went to Steph's and John's house. We filled out the best way we thought. I sent it in. I didn't hear anything 3-4 weeks. I said to Steph, I think it's over, Steph. Steph works in that business. She said, it ain't over, Dad. You're going to hear more. Sure enough, I got another letter. This one said that I had not responded. But this one had something the first letter didn't have. It had a phone number. So I called him. And I said, first thing I want to tell you is, you said I didn't respond. That's a lie. You didn't like the way I responded, but I responded. And I said, second thing is, I'm going to be completely honest with you and tell you what happened. I said, they had a hammock, was hung perfectly, I tried to jump over it and fell down and dislocated my shoulder. I said, whose fault is that? And I said, and secondly, I've been on this insurance for however many years. I don't know when we switched to guys here, but I said, I paid all those premiums and only ever had the, general, maybe a doctor's appointment, that kind of claim. I said, this is Geisinger's bill, and they should pay it. I said, this is not against them. And I was, before that happened, all right, so I sent that letter, or I talked to her, after I sent the letter back, I was doing my walking and praying, and it felt terrible. Like I felt like I was letting my daughter down in a big way, this was going to affect their insurance, and, you just feel like a failure when that's going on. Even though it wasn't me, but it was my fault. I did the stupid thing. So I was praying, and I started out praying, Lord, take this away, fix it, make it come out right, blah, blah, blah. And finally, one day as I was walking, I realized that's the wrong prayer. Because I thought, what am I going to do if it doesn't come out the way I want? I mean, it was out of my hands now. It was in their hands. Whatever they did, that was going to settle it. I thought, well, if it comes down that I take my son-in-law and daughter to court, then we'll do it. But God's going to show himself through this. I honestly believe that. In my prayer, it was like, you know what? I no longer need to worry about the outcome. The outcome's not important here. It was that I can trust God. And even if the outcome wasn't good, there is a Bible story that covers this, and it's Daniel 3:15 through 18. I just want to read that real quick. And this is when, to give you some context, it's when Nebuchadnezzar was going to throw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. And he says, I didn't bring my glasses up here, what have I done? I'm all right. Now, when you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music, where was I? All kinds of music. If you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship, you'll be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then, I love this, Nebuchadnezzar, he's tough, man. then what God will be able to restore even from my hand. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, "Oh, Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you." Can you imagine saying that to the guy that's about ready? He has the right, legally he has the right to throw you in the furnace. They say, "We don't need to defend ourselves in front of you. If we're thrown in the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it. And he will rescue us from your hand, O king. But here's the good part. Even if he does not, we want you to know, king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." That is like a slap in the face to Nebuchadnezzar. I love it. I love that. And I felt that in my spirit. I really did. I thought, you know what? Whatever happens, God's in control. He's good. And from that moment on, again, I didn't worry about that. And then that phone call came, and the lady, when we got all done, she said, "Okay, then that's all we needed." And I said, "Wait a minute. So you're telling me this is settled?" I said, "Yeah, we just needed a response." And she probably thought I was nuts. I said, wait a minute. Here's what I want to know. When we hang up, I'm never going to hear from you ever again. She said, "No, you won't hear from me. It's done." And it was done. So it did work out. But that's not the important part. To me, the thing that touched me and the part that makes it a testimony is that I really felt, even if it did go against me, God was going to take care of it. And that's what I want to give you encouragement today. Let's get to that point where we can seem to sometimes look for we tell God what outcome we need. We say, "Here, God, here's the outcome I need now. You make it happen. You bless it. I'm going to do this. You bless it." That's not how it works. We have to trust him and say, "You know what? Maybe I'll get thrown in the fiery furnace. I guess you'll save me. Maybe you will send me on the mountain to sacrifice my son, but you're going to take care of me." Example after example of people who just trust. And I'm not saying I'm there 100%, but I got a little bit closer to that experience, and it was great. I just want to encourage you all that we can trust him. God is good. This week, through all the nonsense and it was a heavy week. And then Jake Fleming put up a picture of his brand new baby. I just messaged back and said, it's good to be reminded. God is good all the time. So that's what I leave you with. Thank you.